This is a wonderland.
Great.
Hey, I told you not to.
Hey, come on.
Hands up, okay? You couldn't afford the price of admission.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, bar girl, let's go.
Wonderland.
Great.
Hey, I told you not to let it touch me.
Apologize to the lady.
The opening scene introduces John Brickner, a man recently released from prison after serving 4 years of a 7-year sentence for murder. After gaining his freedom, John is determined to redeem himself and start a new life. He moves to Seattle and works in construction to build stability. One night, on his way to a bar, he sees Frankie, a waitress, being harassed by 3 men. John felt the need to teach the 3 men a lesson. He stepped in, locked one of them in a hold, and forced him to apologize to Frankie. Intimidated by John's strength and determination, all 3 fled the bar. Impressed by what he saw, the bar owner immediately offered John a job as a bouncer. John accepted, beginning a life with 2 jobs, construction worker by day and bar security by night. The next day, John started his new job as a bar bouncer. When 2 drunk customers began fighting, he tried to break it up peacefully. But soon after, they caused trouble again, forcing John to take them down and throw them out.
You where the good Lord split you.
The entire scene was witnessed by Reno Paul Saint, Frankie's boyfriend. Impressed by John's skills, Reno offered him another job and left his business card, telling John to call if interested. John politely refused Reno's offer because he was already busy with 2 jobs. One day after finishing work at the construction site, he was unexpectedly approached by a woman named Veronica. She was the widow of the man John had killed in the past, and the one who had filed the petition that earned him early release. But her help came with a price. Veronica demanded that John raise $250,000 to pay for the heart transplant that would save her daughter's life. To atone for his past, John decided to help Veronica raise money for her daughter's surgery. Back home, he counted all the money he had, but it was nothing compared to the huge amount Veronica demanded. Feeling cornered, John turned to Frankie for help. She agreed and took him to meet Reno at a secret location. Once there, Reno led John into a crowded building. Inside was a lively arena where spectators cheered loudly for the fighters. When John mentioned work, Reno revealed his true plan. He wanted John to fight for him. Each victory would bring in a large payout from the betting money. Despite the pressure, John firmly refused to take part in illegal fights, knowing he was on parole. He stood his ground without giving in. The next day, John went to Veronica's house to apologize for not being able to raise the money she needed. Hearing this, Veronica reminded John of the promise he had made in prison. Back then, he had sworn he would do anything to make amends. Her shouting drew the attention of her daughter, Sarah. The frail and sickly girl stepped out of her room to see what was happening. Seeing Sarah so weak and worn down filled John with sorrow and overwhelming guilt. In the end, he promised Veronica that he would do whatever it takes to raise the money for Sarah's treatment. The next morning, while working at the construction site, John was suddenly fired by his boss over a minor mistake. But shortly after, his boss suffered a heart attack and collapsed right in front of him. Fortunately, John acted quickly and gave first aid, helping him survive the crisis. That night, John decided to return to the arena to observe. There, he saw Reno and Frankie watching an intense fight. Unfortunately, Reno's fighter was badly injured and was rushed to a nearby room for emergency treatment. After the examination, the doctor confirmed that the fighter was not healthy enough to continue into the second round. Faced with this situation, John volunteered to take his place. However, before the match could begin, it was interrupted by the arrival of Mr. Wolf, who had come to collect Reno's debt. Reno tried to calm him, promising to pay the full amount after the fight. Once the match officially began, John and his opponent exchanged powerful punches and kicks. The crowd roared with excitement, making the atmosphere electric until the first round came to an end. In the next round, the fighters were allowed to use weapons. John's opponent quickly grabbed a steel rod and attacked him. Although he was struck, John fought back with determination and ultimately defeated his opponent barehanded, earning a dramatic victory. After the match, in the locker room, Reno handed John the prize money. However, John chose to share part of it with the fighter he had replaced. A few days later, after finishing his morning run, John was surprised when Reno and Frankie came to see him. Reno suggested that John keep fighting, emphasizing there was still plenty of money to be made. After some thought, John agreed. Reno even invited him to live together for easier training and preparation. Before the next fight, Reno and John met Deacon, the judge of the match, at a restaurant to discuss the upcoming bout. During the conversation, Reno admitted that he was bankrupt and could not afford to enter a high-stakes bet. Another issue was that John's pardon had not been fully settled. After a tense discussion, he convinced Deacon to let him join the fight. Soon after, Reno pawned a precious ring left to him by his father, a legendary fighter. The ring was used as collateral for the upcoming match. Later, Reno took John to meet a man named Nestor. But when they arrived, Nestor ordered his men to kill Reno because he had failed to pay his debt on time. John immediately stepped in to stop Nestor's men from attacking. He declared that he would fight them under one condition: if he won, Nestor had to release Reno, but if he lost, he would take on Reno's debt. The match began with a $10,000 wager and lasted about 10 minutes. John quickly dominated, landing powerful punches and kicks that left his opponents unable to continue. Soon after, John's opponent collapsed, and he claimed victory. Without delay, John and Reno left the place. On their way home, John received a call from Veronica, who told him that her daughter had suddenly fainted and was rushed to the hospital. At the hospital, he was heartbroken to see Sarah, Veronica's daughter, lying weak on the bed. He promised himself he would do everything possible to make sure she could have surgery soon. After leaving the hospital, John accidentally overheard a conversation between Reno and Frankie in the living room. Frankie accused Reno of using John to pay off his debts. Reno immediately denied it, claiming that John was just an ex-convict and not as good as Frankie believed. He even hinted that Frankie had feelings for John. At that moment, John walked in after overhearing their conversation. That night, as John prepared for another fight, Reno apologized for his earlier words. Day after day, John kept winning intense matches. However, the money he earned was still not enough to qualify for a fight against the reigning champion. John's reputation grew quickly, and many fighters began to lose their courage. Several matches were scheduled but later canceled because opponents were afraid to face him. Reno thought it was understandable and promised to find another fighter for John. One day, when John went to a bar, he noticed two men watching him from a car. They turned out to be bodyguards of Veltz, a crime boss who had lent money to Reno. While Reno was gambling elsewhere, Veltz's men approached him, and Reno desperately begged for more time to pay off his debt. Veltz's men gave Reno 1 week to pay his debt. If he failed, they would harm Frankie. One night, John entered a brutal fight against a Mexican fighter. The match was intense, but John managed to win. Afterward, John went with Reno and Frankie to a bar to celebrate. There, he questioned why Reno wasn't organizing his fights more carefully. Reno explained that as John's name grew more famous, the betting stakes increased, forcing them to keep fighting in order to cover expenses. Soon after, John received a call from Veronica, and they rushed to her house. When they arrived, he found her unconscious, along with a letter revealing that Sarah's organ transplant had been canceled. Overcome with despair, Veronica had attempted to take her own life. Without hesitation, John rushed her to the hospital. While waiting there, he told Frankie the real reason he had chosen to enter the fights. Everything John did was to save a child, the same child whose father he had accidentally killed. Not long after hearing that Veronica had regained consciousness, he went to visit her. There, he explained that he was doing everything he could to earn money for her daughter's surgery. At the same time, Reno went to the pawn shop to reclaim his father's ring. But he was too late, and the ring had already been sold to someone else for a much higher price. Furious but powerless, Reno could do nothing to get it back. One night, John once again fought against Nestor's men. Afterward, Reno and Nestor arranged a match with a bet of $150,000 each.
Not like me. You'll be begging me.
During the fight, John demanded that Nestor order his fighter to surrender, but Nestor refused and insisted on continuing. Fearing he might kill his opponent, John chose to give up. As a result, Nestor claimed victory. At the same time, Veltz's men found Reno and brutally beat him for failing to pay his debt on time. The next day, John was once again followed by Veltz's men. They forced him to go with them and brought him to a luxurious house. There, John met Veltz, who turned out to be the father-in-law of his construction boss. Grateful that John had saved his son-in-law during a heart attack, Veltz promised to grant him any request. John made two demands, the first being $150,000 to cover Sarah's heart surgery. John's second request was for Veltz to clear all of Reno's debts. However, Veltz agreed to grant only one of the two conditions and left the decision to John. In the end, John chose to free Reno from his debts. After the meeting, John left Reno's house and said goodbye to both him and Frankie. Reno expressed his gratitude to John for lifting the burden of debt from his shoulders. Not long after, Reno received news that a bet had been placed for John to fight the reigning champion, Sharp. That night, John entered the arena to face a formidable and nearly unbeatable opponent. As the fight began, he raised his hand to the crowd, greeted by music and thunderous applause. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Veronica rushed through the hallway when she discovered that Sarah's surgery costs had already been paid. After the fight, John went to the hospital to comfort Veronica, and she expressed deep gratitude. Shortly after, Reno and Frankie arrived as well, and John returned the rings he had bought from the pawn shop. Reno thanked John for all the support he had given.